This is a really serious thing I'm talking about right now. But I think it's the idea mixed with how strong the attack was. Conan O'Brien's the night that Rob and Michelle were killed. They had been there, and they had brought their son Nick, who by all accounts had been acting inappropriately, and he filled in some of those details in this report, which he then spoke about on CNN. Just hours before a chain reaction that would later shake the Reiner family to its core, something unsettling was already brewing behind closed doors. 2 months earlier, what looked like a glossy Hollywood holiday moment was actually cracking from the inside, and almost nobody saw it coming. According to multiple reports, what really happened at Conan O'Brien's Christmas party on December 13th wasn't harmless or awkward. It was straight up disturbing. Guests say the vibe flipped fast when Rob Reiner and his son Nick were pulled into a heated emotional clash that made people stop mid-conversation and step back in shock. The room reportedly went silent. Laughter cut off, eyes locked in place. One guest allegedly whispered about calling 911, but that idea was shut down instantly. Conan allegedly made it clear that law enforcement was not stepping foot inside his home, no matter how intense things got. That moment alone left people rattled and uneasy, whispering to each other as voices nearby kept rising. Insiders told outlets that Nick looked on edge all night, pacing nonstop, interrupting conversations and giving off restless energy that made guests uncomfortable. Some people even moved around the house, just to avoid crossing paths with him. Then things boiled over. Nick reportedly began yelling at his parents so loudly that nearby guests froze. This was no longer a quiet family issue. The tension was heavy, obvious, and impossible to ignore. One insider revealed that a few guests even discussed a move that would have forced emergency services into the picture. But at the time, some attendees convinced themselves things were just messy, not dangerous. That's how it felt in the moment. Looking back now, everything hits different. That single decision not to call for help is being questioned hard. Law enforcement later confirmed there were 0 911 calls from the house that night. Less than a day later, the news dropped. Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner were found inside their Brentwood home. Authorities launched a major investigation, and their adult son, Nick Reiner, was arrested soon after, facing 2 counts tied to the case. Prosecutors believe everything unfolded in the early hours of December 14th, shortly after the family returned home from that party. Nick has not entered a plea yet, and the case is still unfolding. But the questions have not stopped haunting everyone who was there that night. Ever since these details surfaced, social media and entertainment outlets have gone into overdrive, breaking down timelines, replaying moments, and arguing nonstop. The same questions keep coming back. Should someone have stepped in sooner? Could this spiral have been interrupted before everything collapsed? Mental health experts are urging people not to oversimplify what happened. They've made it clear that even when warning signs show up, predicting an extreme outburst is incredibly difficult. Former law enforcement voices have echoed that point, reminding the public that calling police does not automatically guarantee safety in emotionally charged situations. Even if authorities had shown up, experts say the outcome may not have changed if the same unresolved chaos followed everyone home. Are you okay? I know what it is. Death in the family? Yep, my parents so fast. So, well, first let me just say the timeline because I have it here. I wrote it down at last year. The whispers haven't stopped, and insiders keep circling back to that night, trying to piece together what really happened before everything unraveled. Behind the scenes, rumors say tensions between Nick and his parents had been quietly building for months. People close to the family claim concerns about Nick's behavior existed well before December 13th, but it was seen as worrying, not catastrophic, which makes it harder to process now. Friends say Rob was doing everything he could to help his son, offering support and guidance away from the spotlight. On the surface, things looked calm, but sources claim the situation was slowly cracking behind closed doors. Meanwhile, people close to Conan say he's been deeply shaken since that night. Friends describe him as devastated, struggling to understand how an evening meant for laughter turned into the starting point of something so irreversible. Hard to reveal that stuff for you? That would seem to be hard for me. It's not hard to reveal that stuff. It's only hard to reveal that stuff to then get told, you're a spoiled white rich kid. And it's like, okay, maybe all these things. Who would say that to you? Not your dad. No, but the world, you know. Listen, I had to talk to him about this. Listen, I know what it's like to be the son of, and to have people assume certain things about you, and it's very, very difficult. Well, how did you handle that? Well, obviously you didn't go to drugs, but you must have had those issues. Your father's an icon. 60s. There was plenty of drugs around, but you just have to know what you do and that you have to block out all that extraneous. As the investigation continues, insiders are bracing for more revelations. Leaked messages, unseen footage, and conflicting accounts are reportedly circulating quietly, while every outlet races for an exclusive. And each new. Others say it's the only way the full truth comes out. You know, things that Nick had gone through and how I had related to it and how his mother had related to it. It forced us to have to. It forced me to have to see more clearly and understand more deeply what Nick had gone through. And I think it forced him to see things that I had experienced during this process. And it definitely brought us closer together. I mean, it was like over a period of a year. It was intense. It was difficult at times, but it was also the most satisfying creative experience I've ever had. Meanwhile, Conan has stayed completely silent. He skipped appearances, paused projects, and pulled back from the spotlight. Friends say he's shaken and heartbroken, while investigators quietly review timelines and footage outside the property. This story isn't slowing down. More witnesses are expected. More evidence is being examined, and Hollywood insiders say the tension is unbearable as everyone waits to see who speaks next and what truth finally breaks through. Hollywood is now staring straight at the wreckage of a story that still feels unreal. What started as a star-packed Christmas party meant to spread cheer turned into a double tragedy that shook the entire industry to its core. This has become a hard lesson in how fast things can unravel when pressure meets silence. Conan O'Brien remains out of public view, quietly trying to process the aftermath of that night. Friends say he's reflective, leaning on people close to him and staying far from the spotlight while the world tears apart every moment an unanswered question. What's becoming impossible to ignore is how deeply this case has rattled Hollywood itself. The illusion of control and protection has cracked wide open, exposing just how fragile things get when real-life crises collide with fame. Insiders say private. The initial shock has faded, but the consequences are only starting to surface. As legal lines are drawn and stories are tested, Hollywood is holding its breath, knowing the next reveal could flip everything again. Weeks later, the emotional fallout is growing heavier. Friends say guests from that night are pulling back hard, skipping events, dodging cameras, and replaying old conversations they once brushed off. There's a quiet fear spreading, the kind that makes people second-guess texts, memories, and moments they never thought mattered. Industry veterans are also speaking privately, saying this case exposes a deeper problem, a culture where difficult behavior gets minimized, excused, or ignored just to keep the peace. That realization is forcing uncomfortable reflection even among powerful figures who aren't ready to say it out loud yet. The silence from key names is getting louder. Every pause, every refusal to comment adds tension. Hollywood isn't just watching anymore. It's sitting inside the unease, waiting for the next crack in the wall. Sources say crisis teams, therapists, and industry advisors are already studying this case behind the scenes. It's being viewed as a brutal example of how private turmoil can explode into public disaster. Fame doesn't soften consequences, it magnifies them. Families connected to the industry are reportedly having hard conversations they avoided for years. Talks about boundaries, intervention, and when silence does more harm than good, it's raw, uncomfortable, and long overdue. What lingers most is the warning this story leaves behind. Not gossip, not spectacle, but a reminder etched into Hollywood's memory. Even as attention shifts forward, the echoes of that night at Conan O'Brien's mansion will keep shaping how responsibility and warning signs are viewed for years. Meanwhile, Nick Reiner's court case looms with insiders warning.